Hello, and welcome to the only podcast where we got kicked out of a doctor's office for saying that we had a mythosaur throat. I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Max.
This is Force for Thought. He wasn't nearly as funny as your guys, I'm sure.
No, that was great.
No,
that was great.
Jokes
It was
like
right
that
there.
are funny. It is, and that's what pisses me off. And sometimes when I hear someone else's joke, I'm just like, damn it, why didn't I think of that sooner? Like, I just feel stupid.
I was driving to get pizza earlier, and I thought of it, and I figured it was semi-topical to this week's episode. Anyway, hello, and welcome back to Force for Thought, where today we're discussing Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore, in our rewatch of The Mandalorian. I know every week we're talking about it consistently, but we are hopefully back on track. We're still, as of this record, not back on track from our absence, and so we're still bulking and releasing episodes. So I think in a couple weeks we'll be fully back on track, and maybe Mandalorian and Grogu will already be out by then. Who knows? Who knows if we'll take another leave of absence or anything. Guys, first impressions, first thoughts. What did you think of this episode on the rewatch? I have a lot of thoughts, as I do every week, so I'm very interested in seeing what you guys thought. This episode, as Din Djarin proves he's a bad fighter, Bo-Katan saves the day, and the true story starts to come out, and Grogu is handled like a puppet, like he is. Lucas, what did you think?
I'm gonna try to take more of a backseat this episode.
Why?
Until I don't, for one reason or another, because I'm still feeling under the weather, and I watched this episode this evening, and I fell asleep for about half of it. And I'm really bummed about it. So I don't have a basis to come out with flaming hot takes one way or another. And I'm really sad because I missed the episode, for one, and I have to talk about it now. But also because this is like one of the worst episodes I've seen of The Mandalorian. And I would love to have more of a strong take on why I didn't like it very much. And I'm sure it's affected by me missing the middle third, maybe. But It just didn't grip me. There were parts that I thought it was going to get interesting. I remembered the plot, and so I knew I wasn't surprised when Grogu didn't save Din Djarin, and he was just sent to go get Bo-Katan, and then she came back and saved him. But like, the first time I saw it, I was definitely hoping that Grogu would have more of a role in saving him than just going to get Bo-Katan. Yeah, I don't care for the R5 stuff. It's just not my favorite episode.
Interesting. All right, I was just joking because I figured you had some sort of hot take or was going to hardcore disagree with Max and I, or one of us as well. That's interesting, Luke. I'm excited to dive into it. I think you hit on a lot of great things that I also feel, but I also disagree in a lot of ways. Maxwell, what did you think?
I do agree with Luke that he should take a backseat this episode because you are out of your fucking mind. This is one of the best episodes. I keep waiting for the dip because I know Mandalorian Season 3 isn't as good as the other seasons, but through the first 2 episodes, Mandalorian Season 3 is way better than Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2. The story format is different. Although he does like bathe in the minds of Mandalore, and I guess that was like the plot for the episode. But it's not like as conclusive of a Monster of the Week type story where it's like, oh, he's sent on his quest, and then he fills his quest, and there's like an incremental move towards the overarching plot. But I don't care. I like that storytelling format, and I love this episode. I always talk about my love for Star Wars as like being a Star Wars historian. I love Star Wars lore. That's why I read so many of the Star Wars books. I do not think Star Wars books tend to be that great, but my favorite ones are the ones that give you a lot of background and unnecessary lore, and I just like learning about that stuff because it's a canonical history, and I think that's interesting. Learning everything about Mandalore is so satisfying. It's so dense, and I just absolutely love it. This episode looked beautiful. There was nothing that jumped out at me as being like, oh, that was weird. That was like awkward puppetry or anything like that. I thought Grogu looked great during the entire thing. He wasn't going too crazy. Like, he only did like one kind of acrobatic jump that I thought was totally fine. I think that the way that they handled his powers was well done. Like, I think they gave him the perfect amount of agency that episode 2, because we were just talking about how Grogu doesn't get any sort of like storytelling from his own perspective. It's always from the Mandalorians. And in this one, he does. And we get to see him go and get Bo-Katan, which doesn't bother me at all. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe he could have tried a little bit harder to save him, but Din Djarin didn't want him to put himself in harm's way. And obviously this creature slash alien slash robot is pretty menacing and, dangerous. So Din Djarin was like, no, go get Bo-Katan. So I liked it a lot. I don't want to say no problems with this episode, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a single one. There was no visual effect that jumped out at me as being awkward or like obvious puppetry or lack of CG or whatever. And there was no writing that jumped off the page as like instantly taking me out of it. Again, you have the bonus of like some expositional dialogue where he's talking to Grogu and stuff like that, which is convenient. Like, I'm not saying that this is going to win an award for writing or anything like that, but there was nothing that took me out of it at any point. I thought it moved along the story well. It gave us all sorts of backstory on Mandalore. I loved it.
Luke, what did you say when you were talking? Sorry, there's a lot I want to jump on with Max was saying. But what were you saying? You said it felt empty? Am I putting words in your mouth? You said something along those lines, I feel like. And now I'm going to
I kind of do feel like you're putting that word in my mouth because I don't remember saying it, but that is a good way to describe it. This episode did feel kind of empty. There's just not that much. Like there is a lot of lore and information about Mandalore, and I have a hard time knowing or remembering what I already knew, what before this, because also I had forgotten until this episode. I guess it just didn't occur to me in episode 1 because there was already so much. The Beskar spear got melted down in the Book of Boba Fett. Just one more thing that happened in the Book of Boba Fett. So I don't remember exactly how much information we gathered from this episode that we didn't have before, but we learned that Mandalore is not actually poisoned and it's maybe not breathable. Inhabitable, but breathable, yeah. But just like the general plot, bad guy grabs Mando and then Mando gets stuck and then someone else comes in and helps him. Like, that was a big tangent, so to speak, for the episode of him going and taking a bath in the mines of Mandalore.
That's true.
I disagree. That was such a small aspect of the episode, though.
It felt like the only aspect. Well, there's like the end, but there's only like 5 minutes at the end after the monster, maybe 10.
True. And we get Pelimato. We can dive into it because there's a lot to dive into, and I feel like we're going to have a lot of disagreements. But I was very pleasantly surprised with this episode. I enjoyed it significantly more than I thought. I do agree with Luke in the fact that not that it was empty, but I just don't think this season, like we all know, I don't think it knows what it wants to be, and I think the first 3 episodes of the season really show that. I think they're all over the place. This episode, it feels like it's the introduction of Bo-Katan, which is almost how it should have started, but we kind of get this uneven first episode, in my opinion, and then the third episode, The Convert, which we'll talk about next week, I remember liking quite a bit, and so I'm very excited to see that, the complete departure from the rest of the show. Obviously, that single episode, we go back to Kershing, and so this episode, I struggle with the season because it feels so uneven, but this episode, watching it and not having to be in it and worry about what happens next week or what happened the previous week, and watching it kind of in this vacuum, I really liked it. And I don't really care about Mandalore as much. I don't think as you guys, or especially as Max. But I really enjoyed him being able to go and bathe in the mines of Mandalore. And again, it throws me off a little bit, the fact that he, character-wise, completely changed a little bit and is like now becoming this devout Mandalorian, even though he's kind of, the whole show is about him cracking a little bit. But I do like, which we'll get to the end, how he sort of converts back a little bit, and then Bo-Katan goes forward, right? You kind of get those cracks in both of them, and kind of I like that ideal that both people are changed by one instance, basically, but for different reasons. And I disagree, Luke. As you know, I love R5. Here's my little figgy. I had to bring him up here. I love R5. I love the way he looks, and I also love the way this episode looks. If you guys are on Disney Plus, perchance, if you go to 9 minutes and 50 seconds, beautiful shot of R5 on Mandalore with the gray skies in the background. I love it. I think it looks so cinematic and so good, and I weirdly think that this episode might be the best Mandalorian has looked. And I think it is because, I know you're gonna make fun of me, Luke, but because it is dark and moody, and it does it so well, and it's so cool, and it's like this scary planet, and I love that aspect of it as well. And we get a lot of cool creatures and yada yada. But anyway, I like this episode. It's not my favorite. And I want to make sure also, are you guys? We've been doing, this is the 18th episode we've gone through. Have you guys been keeping track? Not that we needed to go into it now. I just want to confirm live on pod that have you guys been keeping track of the episodes ranked as we go along? Because it's going to be really hard to go backwards.
It is, and it's only going to get harder. But that's what and I would love to have the data to back it up right now. That I don't necessarily dislike this episode, but it is probably bottom 5 of the ones I've rewatched so far, which is not a scathing indictment because I really like the show, but this one is far from my favorite.
You see, I'm trying to compare apples to apples, which is why I like comparing it to the second episode of the first 2 seasons. And doing that is, to me, much more clear because we talked about the Frog Lady episode, right, which was season 2, episode 2. We love that episode. We thought that episode was underrated. It was a lot of fun. Nothing but good things to say about that episode. But it was inconsequential. Like, we said it at the time. Like, yes, it is filler, but this is as good as filler gets. This episode was, like, the exact opposite. Like, this was just, like, complete, like, lore expanding exploration. And at this point in the TV show, that's what we're here for. I mean, we already know Grogu and Mandalorian, they're together, they're doing well, so it's like, what's the next step that they're taking? And this is kind of the thing that they've been, teasing through the first 2 episodes. Season 1, episode 2 was the Jawa and the Mud Creature episode, which, again, we said good things about it. It's a lot more fun than people recall, and you do get the big reveal at the end that he is, in fact, Force sensitive, which a lot of people kind of assumed at the time, but obviously that confirmed it. So, again, I'm not saying that those 2 episodes are bad by any means. I just think that this episode offers a lot more. It's a lot more meat than it is potato chips. I feel like we haven't used that metaphor in a while, so I'm bringing it back. But I felt like I was eating a steak for dinner and not just Lay's potato chips.
I feel like I was eating a Salisbury steak. That was the problem. Because a lot of it is just a catalyst.
It was hearty. It is a meal.
Yes, because a lot of it is just a catalyst to where the other episodes that you're talking about, it builds Din Djarin and Grogu's relationship. This episode, to me, yes, disguises itself as Din Djarin bathing himself in the Mandalorian waters, but realistically is a catalyst to make Bo-Katan a more of a main character and to see the Mythosaur and to see her to understand her culture more. And so I think that's where it hits me a little bit against it, is that to me it is disguised as a Mandalorian episode when it realistically is a Bo-Katan episode, which is fine. I'm fine with that, but I think that's where, when I'm looking at my episodes, this is lower on my list than the episodes you mentioned, Maxwell. Episode 10, The Passenger, and episode 2, which is The Child. I like this episode quite a bit, like I said, but I think I disagree a little bit when I kind of hit back against that, and for me at least. With that being said, though, you are a big lore guy, and I don't know, I feel like episode 3 does the same thing with lore, just I watched a little bit of episode 3, and not to jump ahead of for next week, but I'm just like, oh, I like it. It feels more like Andor a little bit, where it's like this. Yeah, I love that aspect of it. So I'm excited to dive in if it's gonna hold up.
I'm very excited for that too, because I have never rewatched that episode since it originally aired. So I'm sure there's so much that I forgot about, and after rewatching it, I'll probably have such a positive vision on it. But yeah, right now I'm like, I think I'm trying to separate what I know / what I remember, because I do think those are different, from what is actually happening. Because it's like, if I'm comparing this episode with my expectations for the rest of the season, it's going to be artificially deflated, because I absolutely love the Mythosaur reveal at the very end. I think that's probably like one of the highlights of this season. And if memory serves,
I agree,
they don't really do anything about that for the rest of the season. I'll see. I'll keep my mind open. Maybe they do talk about that more, and I'm misremembering that. I hope that I am. But
I think it is just Bo-Katan, right? Like, we saw her see it, and Din Djarin did it, right? I think that is it, right? I think again, well, we'll see. I don't know why I'm saying this. You just said that, but I think that is the
And
point.
maybe that's why I like Bo-Katan so much in this season, because I was always like, yes, like, no, she is the more important one now. Like,
Yes,
she's
I
seen the
agree.
Mythosaur. Because I've
Yeah.
always defended Bo-Katan in season 3 of Mandalorian, because there's a bunch of whiny babies on the internet who are like, oh, this isn't Mandalorian, this is just Bo-Katan. And I'm like, she's the more interesting part of the season, though. Like, I don't care. That's
Yeah.
okay.
She also
if it's a good
is a
character and it
Mandalorian.
works.
And has been around longer than Din Djarin. That's upsetting on multiple levels.
And is more important, her family
Yeah.
ruled all of Mandalore.
Yeah, I agree. But to dive into the episode, you guys want to
Well,
go scene
can I
by scene
respond
now
to
a
a
little
few-
bit?
Yes.
Can I respond to a
Please.
few of those comments? Because I've been waiting. The visuals. I'm not going to say that the visuals are not good. I think they are good. I'm pretty sure I've said this several times on this rewatch series. You guys keep being surprised by the consistently good visuals, and I have still not yet seen the bad visuals. I took notes ready to defend the visuals in this because I thought you were going to complain, because I thought it did look like the volume pretty clearly, and I was okay with it because, like, the landscape of Mandalore, it looks very otherworldly, and they clearly didn't shoot it on they didn't shoot it on location, and I think I can tell that it's the volume, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Similar to my take on Yoda, Puppet Yoda looks more real, but he looks like a real puppet, and CG Yoda looks more like Yoda, like an alien, like this otherworldly thing, and I think that's better, even though it looks less real, because this isn't a real thing, it's an otherworldly thing. And so I agree that the visuals are great in this, and I just don't want to take the eyes off the ball that you guys keep expecting the visuals to be bad, and I don't think that ever happens. But again, we'll see, because it was in season 3 that you guys specifically said that there's a drop.
Keep us honest. I appreciate that, because I think you're absolutely right about it.
I think the reason it feels empty to me is because the string tying together season 3 is very knotted and incongruent. We've said that at length. At this point, in
It
the
already
season-
solved. It was
Right,
like, hey,
at this
I
point in
need
the season,
to
I'm like-
bathe in the man. Sorry, God.
At this point, I think that the plot is going to be Mandalorian repenting and shedding his apostate ways, and it's like, oh, all right, that's resolved. And then right after that, Bo-Katan sees the Mythosaur, and it's like, oh my god, this season's actually about Bo-Katan and the Mythosaur, and then that never gets resolved. And so, for 2 different ways, it's like they're wrapping something up and exploring something new, but we're not actually getting either in a satisfying manner.
But that's what I was trying to warn against, though. Try not to judge it based on what we recall the season as a whole. Just taken as an episode,
Yes.
it tickled you a little bit.
And I won't. It is very exciting seeing the Mythosaur, but... And I made the note of comparing it to Andor, which we try not to do when we're watching The Mandalorian. But when we watched Andor Season 2, when Jimmy Smits was recast as Bail Organa, and I seem to be the only person in the world that was furious about it, there was a short scene, the episode before Bail Organa is really in it, where it was the new guy, Benjamin Bratt?
Yeah,
Shoot.
I think that is right.
I think so too, but we'll fact check it. The new guy shows up and basically just says, "Hey, Mon Mothma, I'm Bail Organa. I'll see you next episode." And Tony Gilroy went as far as to say that that was just so that the audience can get on board with this new character, Bail Organa. The bigger fans can start recognizing that it's a different actor, and we're done with that. Next episode, it's Bail Organa, and that's that. And I said, okay, that's fine. Next episode, I'll accept him as Bail Organa. But this episode, I'm going to be furious that Jimmy Smits was recasted for no good reason. And so, similar to that, if I'm not mad about the Mythosaur never coming up again for the rest of the season, when will I be? Because he never comes up again. Like, you can't just pin that on one episode at random that he's not in, because he's not in all of them. So I'm going to be mad now.
I agree, Luke. And
But
also, I think
the purpose of this experiment is to go back and rewatch each individual episode and rank or review the episodes individually. Because I think you're right that there is a fair judgment to be made in reviewing the entire season as a whole. But just on an individual episodic basis, this episode was good. I think your grievances after the fact will be very valid.
I think the difference, though, that I'm thinking, Maxwell, this season is we usually are dealing with a monster of the week style format, versus this season doesn't really have that. And that's where I think Luke is saying too, where none of this gets resolved, where we have this very shoestring line through episodes for seasons 1 and 2, and strung along that is a bunch of fun random adventures we get, right? Season 3 is trying to be bigger than it is and not knowing, right? And that, I mean, what Luke just said even was just the first 2 episodes. We're not even dealing with all the stuff we see on Coruscant in episode 3. We're not even dealing with when then they kind of go to Adventure of the Week randomly, and then they tie up seasons 1 and 2 again in the last 2 episodes. And so it's hard not to review season 3 episodes after seeing it. And I think it's a better thing, because again, rewatching season 1 and 2, like The Passenger is one of my favorites now. It's just a stupid frog lady episode, and I love it now. But at the time, it was like, that's a stupid frog lady episode, And so I think it does have some good aspects of seeing things in hindsight. And like when I saw the Mythosaur in this episode, I was almost more excited this time than I was when we first saw it, because I know it doesn't go anywhere, and I just appreciated it for what it was. And I was like, we saw it. I actually like that you kind of see it almost like a Cloverfield monster, that it is siloed. You don't see it in its grand form. You just see it up close, and you understand what it is. I like that reveal as well. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the visuals of it, but I did not have that same takeaway of being excited to see it. I was more disappointed that this plot point doesn't go anywhere, which maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. But like I was saying, if I'm not going to be mad now, then when?
It's true. But you know what I wasn't mad about is the return of Pelimato and the kind of the R5 redemption. They're going to bring him with them.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Pelimato more so than R5. Pelimato's such a treat every time she's on screen.
I know Max. See, this is where Max is gonna disagree. It would just, to me, Amy Sedaris is just doing like her impression of Jerry Seinfeld. Spelunking? What do you need to do spelunking for? Like, I was like, oh my god, like, it's just so funny how like the contrast just hits so differently. Like, we go back to Tatooine, Mos Eisley, it's Boone to Eve, but then we get oh my god, the most colorful costume I think in all of Mandalorian, maybe as
from
well.
that random Rhodian.
Yes, yeah,
yes.
Like, it's so out of place for Tatooine. Like, is he dressed up because it is like a celebration? Like, it's so funny how
It's a holiday.
we get the fact that Jawas go to the cantina. In my mind, Jawas don't go to the cantina. They just kind of go by, like, live by themselves and are isolated. But like, that brought up so many questions for me. I like that they're talking about spelunking consistently. I like the idea that this is the first episode where they truly were like, we fucked up by blowing up the Razor Crest. So now every single time Mando needs some sort of droid, we just have to be like, well, I'll build this thing for you again. And then just cut to the credits. And then afterwards, it's just back. It's like, oh no, now we have, Grogu sitting up with Mandalorian in the cockpit. And now R5 is attached in the back of the N1.
As much as I like this sequence, it does tangle the web of an already non-linear plot of the season. That episode 1 was all about Mando getting IG-88, IG-11 back for no good reason, because he wants him, and we didn't care for that then. And then it's this episode, and he says he's here, and I didn't even remember. Like, it was. Well, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, because we did the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer last week. But he shows up, and I couldn't even remember why he was there. And he says he wants to repair IG-11. I was like, oh, yeah, that was a thing. And then she's like, never mind, here's R5. And he says, okay, that's fine. And it's like, what are we doing here? What were we doing then? What are we doing now? This is... I like seeing Amy Sedaris, and I like the banter and her character, but the plot, again, it felt empty to me.
Yeah. I think it is one of those things where it feels like a greatest hits.
Huge.
Go ahead, Max.
I was just going to say I'm not a huge Pelimato fan. I feel like my thoughts on her have been well established at this point. I think she's a little too loud and colorful and hammy for the episodes, and I don't know. Whatever. And I just didn't like that we had to go back to her for the 45th time in a scene that felt like it was just ripped straight out of a D&D role-playing game where it's like, oh, before we do that, we should go over here and get this droid first.
It's just a video game. You got to go
that
back to
said-
home base to restock your supplies and upgrade
Or a
your
video game,
ship. Yeah. Max, you're gonna feel
That
like
said,
such.
they did the scene about as well as they possibly could because there were still enough aspects of it to keep me interested. I liked the visual of the N1 starfighter flying through the fireworks as he was leaving. I like the fact that he revisited on Boonta Eve and they talked about that again. That's fun. Seeing the Jawas and how they swindled that Rhodian. That was a fun little, side story there. I like that aspect. So, I mean, it was good. I liked it. I didn't have anything against it other than just oh gosh, we got to see her again.
Max, you're gonna feel like such an idiot when we do our first signing for autographs and Luke and I are dressed as Pelimato and you're not. It'd be such a disappointment.
I'll be the Jawa.
You be a pit droid.
Yeah, you're the pit droid. Me and Luke are just both Pelimato with these Sigourney Weaver wigs. I want to make that happen. Actually, that sounds really fun. I do like the fact that they've done this a million times. Like Mando's been by Pelimato. They need some sort of ship modification, but I like the energy of the scene where it is Boonta Eve, so people are rushing to go have fun. People are rushing to get out of there. The pet droids have to go get the Jawas back from the cantina in order to help. It's a weird thing just to have going on, but I'm glad they do. So there's this sense of urgency around it as well.
I also like the energy.
Right.
This is the sequence that Grogu does his puppet flip, which I feel like Max was preemptively defending. If I read that right, was your take?
That's correct. Yes.
I don't care for it.
It was one flip. He does it again later in the episode, but it's one flip. He's not hopping all around doing Yoda tricks when he's fighting Count Dooku or something like that. So that's why I'm okay, they've well established that he can do this as seen in Book of Boba Fett. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
They're getting more brazen with the way they treat Grogu the puppet, the filmmakers and the people on cast. It started last week with when he tosses Grief Karga Grogu like a football when IG-11 reanimates, and
Yes.
that was
He does.
that was when it started. That was the ice cracked, and now we just start falling deeper and deeper into this lake. And now he's doing flips, and next week he's not in it because it's the Pershing episode. But
Wait
we'll
till
see.
episode
It
7
gets-
though, or 8.
Right,
when
it gets
he's
more and
jumping
more,
around.
and it's not that I don't like the lore implication that Grogu can do the flips. It's the filmmaking visual that they insisted on keeping it being a puppet, and they have him on a wire or something, or I don't know. It just never looks good to me.
Yeah, I think it's fine, but I don't know.
The
Pelimato.
one flip didn't take me out of it.
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
a specific, I think Matt's referencing it as well because there is a specific visual effect towards the end of the season that looks
Yes.
much hokier.
Yeah, I do like the idea. Again, it's that thing which I haven't said this season yet. We're 2 episodes in. That's not. That's nothing to boast about. But it's the idea of the creators versus the viewers and what we really want. And I think there is some sort of kitschy thing that they're doing with Grogu and being a puppet. I just don't think the audience is in on it when we're all oh, it's a little funky looking. And I think they're but it's supposed to feel like the 80s where things are tactile and yada yada is my guess of what they're trying to do. I just don't think we ever fully get that across, to be honest. The entire show. They get wrong. Mandalorian kind of reminds me of Knight Rider, that old 80s show with Kit, the car and stuff. It weirdly reminds me of that. I've never thought about that and made that connection, but I'm going to say it right now, and I feel like it makes sense to me that is what they're kind of going for. But I don't think it's ever been conveyed to the audience. Not specifically Knight Rider. That's insane. That might not be a real thing. That just might be me. Anyway. Shall we continue? Because this might be the longest episode. Oh, no. Okay, go on. We
only
also
other
covered most of this stuff, to be honest. So this might
Yeah.
go quicker than we thought.
The only other note I had on that sequence was when the Jawas swindled, and Peli for that matter. When they
Peli,
swindled
first
that
name base.
Rhodian by stealing his parts and then selling them back to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth noting that Obi-Wan Kenobi did not fall for that in his show when Tito, was it Tito? No, because that's the name of Rey's friend on Jakku. But I don't know. The Jawa in Obi-Wan Kenobi steals his parts and tries to sell them back to him, and Obi-Wan just calls him out for it. I thought that was a nice continuity piece.
That's pretty good. pretty good. And also Obi-Wan, he's a G. And we go to Mandalore now, right? It's really cool to see Mandalore in live action. We talked about the amazing shot at 9 minutes and 50 seconds when R4 is off on the planet. We don't know if it is breathable yet. He gets absolutely wrecked by a creature instantly, basically, which leaves Mandalorian and Grogu in this weird state, which I also like the energy of, and that the idea that you are scared to get out of the car in this scenario, a ship, but there's also a creature somewhere there because you know something's wrong, and I like that eeriness. Like we, the audience, know that it's going to be breathable, it's going to be fine. But I like the idea that he's going to go explore. He doesn't really have any fear in this regard. I like when he walks into the cave. I like that blue and green tone that you can just feel like the water is going to be near. Again, this is kind of one of those weird things too where there's just a lot of action, so how do you talk about it fully? But he literally runs into this scary creature with long hair that looks like what I imagine a 70s hippie kind of look like if you're a knight walking through the streets of Los Angeles in 1969 and see a high hippie. We have a good fight scene. Mandalorian actually does good. I also feel like he goes back to the N1 to put Grogu back in the cockpit. Probably a pretty smart idea. Do you guys have any notes on that? I don't know. I'm just kind of scrolling through because it's hard to like say each line of what he actually does, I guess.
It was very necessary to show Mando win a fight so handedly against some credible opponents. Like there were 3 of them, and they looked pretty badass. And Mando held his own pretty well. Again, Book of Boba Fett well establishes that the Darksaber is very heavy in Mandalorian's hands, and we did not rewatch the Book of Boba Fett, so another moment of just being moderately frustrated about that. Mm-hmm. How much of the Mandalorian plot takes place in the Book of Boba Fett.
That's true.
That's been talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they really needed that fight scene because he obviously loses very handedly to Spider Robot
creature.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fair. Spider Robot guy is sick. He would that's an okay fight to lose if you're the Mandalorian. But yeah, I really liked seeing those other creatures fight him.
It is right, and something else I really appreciate is that we get a solid 4 minutes of Mandalorian exploring the minds of Mandalore with Grogu. It really does take its time to breathe. Like this is, I think, a 48 or 43 minute episode without the intro, and I mean that's including credits, I guess. So let's just call it like 43 minutes though. But it does take its time. This episode doesn't feel rushed. Like I really love when he's using his jetpack and lowering down into the mines further and further. I like being able to explore that space in that area with them. Again, it's a solid 4 minutes until they come across the cyborg creature and trap. Max, sorry, what were you? It looks like you were going to say something before I jumped into the jetpack exploring aspect.
Yeah, I agree. I like it when they take their time and they explore, take in the scenery and the atmosphere and everything like that. Having only seen Mandalore in animation, it was really cool seeing it in live action, even though it's nothing like we remember seeing it. And I think that's part of what kind of gives it that dreariness to it if you're familiar with the shows. So yeah, I love that aspect of it. I like the fights with the Alamites is what they were called.
Ooh, Alamites.
I don't know if they are... It kind of blurs the lines between creature or species, because it's like, are they sentient? They're bipedal, which definitely makes it feel more species-like, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are. So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting because, yeah, he did absolutely just kind of slaughter them, and the action for that was fantastic.
For once,
that's blowing my mind right now. How much being bipedal implies being sentient, but that's not fair. Are we smarter? Do we walk upright because we're smarter? Or there's a correlation there. I think the dumber animals are on all fours. We need a
There's a lot of
biologist.
dumb animals that are what's considered bipedal. I mean, trying to think. Are monkeys considered bipedal? They stand upright and they walk. They don't always do it, but
I mean, we
physiologically they can. Kangaroos have 2 feet.
Yeah, but their hips are.
What are we talking about right now?
I don't. Kangaroos seem dumb to me. I'm just thinking in terms of evolution. As we evolved and got smarter, we also started to be more upright and more bipedal. Is that because we were getting smarter? And that's just
I don't know. I have so much lower back pain because of the pressure and stuff. I wish I could lean forward most of the day.
You thinking about just reverting, going quadruped?
Yeah, people might look at me funky, but let me tell you, my back's gonna feel like a breeze at night. No back pain here, baby.
Did you guys think when Mando approaches an area in Mandalore and he sees the visor of a helmet in the sand? At first, I didn't recognize that was a helmet. I thought that was like a button. And at first, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Their buttons are in the shape of helmets. And then he unearths it a little bit. And I was like, oh, no.
That's pretty
No,
cool.
I didn't, but that's funny.
That's really funny. So Mandalorian goes along. He's exploring the mines of Mandalore, and he comes across this cyborg and its trap. I like the idea also that obviously once something becomes uninhabitable, something that can inhabit that place does. It's like when you leave a room for a year left unscathed, and you come back in, there's obviously going to be like spiders and stuff, and it's freaky, and that gives me the same sense. Like in this whole episode gives me this creepy vibe. No surprise, because you can't win in all of them, and you can't lose all of them. Din Djarin gets pretty screwed up pretty quick in this cyborg trap, leaving Grogu to escape. I also do like, much like a video game, that once Grogu leaves on his way out, which is also smart, the fact that they got his little carrier, so he's able to go back instantly, basically, to retreat to the N1. I like that he comes across the Alamites again. Just like a video game, like when you, which is always the worst part of a video game,
respawn.
when you defeat, yes, and you're like, motherfucker. And so, but I do like that aspect. And then we do get a Grogu jumping out of his little hover thing, which I can't think of the name of, into the N1 as well. That is another part where he just yeets out of it. And that doesn't bother me. That's just a fun thing that I think he does. Then he obviously goes to Bo-Katan's, I'm just going to say Bo-Katan's house because it's funnier, because she is in the same spot we saw her last time. It is funny where it's like they obviously built one aspect of this set and of this fortress, and it is this throne room, which is fine. She now has blankets by her. It's like the biggest difference, it feels like. She's settling in. She's cozy. I like that she feels annoyed when the starfighter arrives, and she like clearly doesn't know it's just Grogu. Grogu pops his head up. He looks adorable. She understands instantly that there's some sort of sense of urgency. R5 is over there. And then they go back to Mandalore with Bo-Katan, and she kind of has this bit of a reminiscing factor, and uses Grogu basically as the audience to talk about how it didn't always look like this. As we land, and so obviously because Din Djarin himself wasn't born a Mandalorian, born on Mandalore, we get kind of this background information for the viewer, specifically for those who have not seen Clone Wars and Rebels, the animated shows. We get some more backstory pretty quick about what Mandalore is, just to solidify it, and coming from her. Any notes or questions? Not questions. Like I'm going to take questions like a Q&A now. Any notes on the? Got any questions for me? I'm kind of running the show.
The spider monster does not necessarily win a fight against Mando. It's just a trap that is snared to perfection. Like
that's true. Yeah.
As many fights as Mando does lose, I don't think this one really has to count against him on the pedigree. And then also we didn't talk about it when it came up. But as Mando and Grogu are approaching Mandalore, it's another instance that we've talked about several times. Maybe just in Season 2, Episode 6, because I remember that one vividly. But remember we talked about how they parked the Razor Crest far away because it had to establish that the Razor Crest is far away for when it blows up. And then Boba Fett shows up, and he's like, hey, take off your jetpack because you can't have it for later in the episode. And sometimes it feels unnatural and McClunky, and sometimes we don't mind. So I'm curious on how you guys felt, but when Mando and Grogu were arriving, and Mando was like, "Yep, that's Mandalore. That's the moon that I grew up, and right here on the scanner is where Bo-Katan lives." I did not think anything of it, but then Grogu gets back in the unknown starfighter and starts smashing that little spot on the scan, and I'm like, "Oh, he knows. He can tell R5. No problems there."
That is funny.
I think that's the secret or the trick, right? When they have those moments, is if it sticks out to you in the moment of being like, oh, well, that's going to be relevant later. Because I feel like that wasn't over the top or anything. Like we've talked about how he's kind of started to officially take Grogu under his wing and everything. And so he's kind of narrating everything that he does. Whereas if like someone's telling Mandalorian like, hey, why don't you take off your jetpack? It's like, that's a red flag. So this was much more natural and I liked it. And when they gave him agency and like his first kind of solo mission, I thought it was perfectly appropriate. Like he got in his little pram and he escaped, and then he had to do a little force push of the Alamite, which was like the perfect amount of seeing it too, because they didn't show us exactly. They just kind of saw like the Alamite come out of the cave, which is well done. That's the secret, like what Matt was talking about before, where it's like sometimes the less you see, the better it looks. And so I thought that was good. And then he just kind of like, turns around to R5 and he's just pointing at the scanner, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly how he would do it because he can't fly the ship yet. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. That whole thing was really well done.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about, what I was saying a couple, depending on when this episode drops, a couple weeks ago when the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer came out and we were theorizing about it, how much agency and impact Grogu's actions can have on the story. Like where we are right now, and it gets further along this path as the season goes on. But like right now, all he can do is drive his pram and point and use the Force sometimes. He like tried using the Force to save Din Djarin, didn't really work out. And so he just left and pointed to the thing. And the power level of where Grogu is right now lends itself very well to being able to point. And if you can craft a story around just pointing to a thing, making a big impact, you can nail it. So,
yep.
There are ways to make Grogu a very important character in terms of plot. I love where we'll get there, but IG-12 when Grogu wears the mech, I thought that they had finally cracked the code and we were gonna just take off exponentially now, and Grogu was gonna become such a cool character, and then they got rid of it right away.
They did indeed. Spoiler.
Back to square one. Jon Favreau knows what he's doing; he can do it. But boy, you had it, and you had it. Let it go there.
Same thing with the Razor Crest, though. They had it, and they just were like, "Nah, never
mind." Maybe that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Maybe in the new Razor Crest, there's also a new IG mech unit.
It's actually Carl Weathers. Sorry, he rides Carl Weathers just like. Sorry, that's so fucked up. I don't like that. I'm sorry. To Carl Weathers' estate.
I will also say because I did also just want to give the show its flowers as far as that spider monster goes. Cyborg, I guess, is what it would be. Mm-hmm. Because there was definitely some sort of sentient life in there. But it had like multiple robotic bodies. I mean, 10 out of 10 character/creature design. That is so cool. The way it operated was so cool. Like you said, Luke, the trap was laid to perfection. And it was freaky. And it was truly unlike anything we'd ever seen before in Star Wars. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. The entire time that monster was on the screen, I just had that feeling of like, I like looking at that. And it was draining Din Djarin's blood. Like, that is so freaky. That's gross. Yes. I don't know. It's so cool. So many. I like that part a lot. That said, I will contrast that a little bit with him, Grogu, going to meet Bo-Katan. And contrasting that with having to see Peli-Motto for the 69th time, which is, when we saw Peli-Motto, they did everything they could to make that scene interesting. Whereas when he went to go to Bo-Katan, it was like, once again, she's just sitting on the throne. And it's like, she's still like an important Mandalorian. Like, I understand that she kind of lost everyone when she didn't come back with the Darksaber, but like, maybe something is happening in the castle. Maybe she's hosting some sort of event. Like, you can show me literally anything. Just 2 seconds of her talking to someone else, and then having to be like, oh, ma'am, there's someone here to see you, and then she has to get pulled aside into her chamber or something.
Even if it's down the hall, like even if it's in that grand room just shot from a different angle, there's just something so funny about it that she's just on the throne consistently. It's just so boring to look at.
Was it you? I forget if it was you or Luke who literally said that they clearly just designed the one room and they were like, we'll just keep using this. This is fine.
Yeah, that's me 10 minutes ago. Yeah, it was so weird. I think about that all the time. And I'm just like, come on. It's like, just use a different part of the room. Like, it all looks cool. You don't need to look at, just shoot it a different way.
It's a castle. Give me different angles. Matt, think about how much you and I went berserk watching Jabba's garage.
Berserk.
Give me the castle's garage.
Exactly. That's what I want.
She's just working on her ship. It can be something like that. Just everyday life.
Yes. The cyborg creature I also loved. I do like the fact, having it being sentient and having like the eye basically is like presumably where this creature actually lives, but it's just controlling this this massive kind of cybernetic body, gives it such a different feeling than anything else. It's not like kind of gobbledygook like robots that don't matter or whatever. Like, it's just such a spooky creature. Like, why is it draining the blood? And there's so many questions around it. And I love that when it does die consistently, like, you see it. Like, there is an aspect of it that it's like, yes, you can see that it has fear and it's actively trying. And in the best way possible. It reminds me a lot of, like, something that you would see from Scooby-Doo 2 on Monsters Unleashed. If you guys remember that movie from 2004, that James Gunn classic. But it reminds you of like, something of like
this reference.
It's the second one, exactly. Yes, they're not on Spooky Island. That's the first one.
Freddie Prinze Jr. angle connected to Star Wars.
Yes,
there it is.
Yeah, boom, exactly right there. It's right in front of us. And then also, obviously, we get to see Bo-Katan use a Darksaber pretty effortlessly in comparison to Din Djarin, who, much like everything, has been struggling the entire season. Also, Bo-Katan, once again, clears out the Alamites with ease. Like, just absolutely, these things have no sort of agency at all. They're, like, the easiest things to beat, apparently.
She had the jump on them, though, which, to be fair, she knew that something was going to be coming up around the corner. But, yeah, I like that little beat where she kind of looked up and she kind of saw them in the glass a little bit, and she just didn't even wait for him. She just starts blasting through.
Yes. The fight scene's great, though. I like seeing Bo-Katan being able to... they still struggle against this cybernetic creature, which is great, and they kind of work together a little bit. Bo-Katan's great. We talked about this a couple weeks ago with the Mandalorian Grogu trailer. It confuses me why she's not in those trailers or spots or anything. I don't know what their plan is with Bo-Katan, because clearly in Season 3, she was a big piece of the puzzle, and I don't know if they're going a different direction or not, because that's what it feels like. Her story doesn't feel like resolved, so I'm wondering if they're going to do something with her later on or not. Because she's awesome. Her fighting style is great. Her helmet's great. Katie Sackhoff is great. I don't want her to sit on my face. Is that what she said? Is that famous? In my mind, it's a famous quote. But
I don't think it's a famous quote, but I know the quote.
Yeah. I like her a lot. Just not in that way.
Questions, but we'll take it off, Pod.
What's that? Oh, what? Lynn just opened the door. It's. Yeah, I said I do not, just to be clear. What a weird time. Anyway, Bo-Katan and Din Djarin have a nice little chat. He will not remove his helmet no matter how much he should absolutely remove his helmet up until this point. They go to find the actual water themselves so he can bathe in it. I'm sure I'm skipping some stuff, but the biggest thing I want to talk about is Din Djarin being just he belongs in a Marx Brothers movie for how many mistakes he has. Obviously, I love the way he uses his light on his helmet. It's cool. And then he instantly sinks to the bottom. He goes into the mine. He goes into the water. And I remember watching that.
He was expecting another step. That Beskar armor surely doesn't float.
That it surely does not float. We see it. It doesn't float. But I think it's just so funny.
Is he surprised about that, though?
Yes, it's just the fact that he's not prepared for anything. Like he's not prepared for the Alamites. He's not prepared for He has R5. He's not prepared for this cybernetic creature in this potentially uninhabitable planet. He's not prepared for water. Like, the whole aspect of what he's not prepared for just adds up over and over again. And it's just so funny because you think it's going to be over. He just got captured, for Christ's sakes, right? Like, you're like, okay, well, certainly that's the comeuppance of this episode. But no, he steps in and he just sinks straight down. Which, again, I think... Which is fine. Like, I don't have a problem with it. It's just this whole season, it's just so funny because everything they're doing makes a lot of sense. It's just the way they go about it is so weird. Like, they're like, okay, well, how do we get Bo-Katan to see the mythosaur? And for some reason, their explanation was that Din Djarin almost drowns and she needs to go save him for the second time in a row in like 10 minutes. It's just so funny.
I have no problem with that.
No, I agree. I also don't have a problem with it. It's just... There's a million different ways they could have went about it, and for some reason it was like, no, he falls and sinks.
Yeah, it's stuff like this that makes me not dislike Mandalorian, but disrespect him.
Yes, I agree. I think that's exactly how I would put it too, Luke.
Like,
Again,
if there
it's
was
just confusing.
Expecting another step. I don't think it's that
Max,
crazy. I mean,
your whole hinging is that he expected another step, like he's never been in a pool before or something. I don't know. Like, you can never trust what's beneath you in the water.
You think that was a pool? That was the freaking Mariana Trench that he fell in. It was like
Yes.
half a mile deep.
Yes, I agree. So if you're in a pool, you expect some steps. But if you're in a potentially uninhabitable water source, don't expect any steps. Just go in with the most caution possible.
If there was child protective services that I could call on the Mandalorian for the way he's raising Grogu, it's like, it's a dangerous universe. Bounty hunting is a dangerous profession. It's not the best idea to raise a child like this, but if you're careful,
Yeah.
I'll turn my eye. But he sucks at it. Like, he's doing everything the most dangerous and ill-conceived way he could think of. And yeah, that's a good, because he doesn't necessarily
There's no
lose.
safe way to bathe in the. What do you want him to get to the second step and just lay down on the step and be like, okay, technically I did it. I'm submerged.
Just prepare to swim, I guess, this is my note coming into this.
I think so too. Yeah. It is tough to bathe in the minds of Mandalore. It seems like kind of a catch-22 where it's like you have to bathe in the minds of Mandalore, but also you can't take anything off, so you're just going to be so heavy. Like, it's hard to swim in clothes, let alone armor.
Not anything off. He did take off quite a bit before he got in.
He takes off his scarf and his
Not
weapons
to
and his
feed
jetpack.
your guys' argument here, but
I think it's
That was
think
an
this is just
interesting beat because I bet he's only quote unquote allowed to bathe in the minds of Mandalore with his armor on. It's probably just got to be his armor and his body, like no other dingers.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there is some sort of reason for that. Actually, I'm not upset about that or discount it.
I think the biggest thing that it doesn't, again, the actual scene doesn't bother me. I think that's the implication that bugs me just a little bit, just because I think they could have gone, unlike much like Heisenberg says, right? No half measures. And I think it's the same. It is the same thing here, where I wish they would have went full on with Bo-Katan and not had to have used Din Djarin as kind of a damsel in distress to make Bo-Katan look cool, because she already is cool. I don't think we really need that. So that's my only thing in this episode, and it works. I just don't think we need. I think they both can be cool. I don't think we need one to be the other. But then she obviously sees the mythosaur, like we said. Din Djarin does not. This is, for me, straight out of the X-Files movie, where David Duchovny, don't know why I said his actor name, his real name, Fox Mulder finally sees a spaceship, and Scully, of course, does not, the
Full
skeptic. And so it's, it is one of those things where it's like, oh yes, there's finally like this sort of proof, but the other person doesn't see it. And you're probably never going to see it again. And I love the fact that, this skeptic who believes in her culture so much does witness this thing, and it kind of brings her back to this, I guess, religious aspect of being a Mandalorian. And I love that seeing is believing thing. And so everything that she has kind of disavowed has now come kind of flooding back, and she starts to question herself as well. So that's the episode of the Minds of Mandalore.
I just want to say, because I seem to be kind of alone in some of my defenses of this episode, and I know this didn't get well received last time I said it. However, I am going to go on record as saying that this episode probably had the best cliffhanger in all of Star Wars. Seeing that Mythosaur,
Max,
you
all
can
of
be
Star Wars?
You can be disappointed that it doesn't come up enough for the rest of the season, and I'll probably agree with you because that is significant. However, tell me that did not tickle your sack just a little bit too much. That was amazing to see a mythosaur in live action. I mean, get out your bingo card of things that you thought you would never see in Star Wars. That's one of them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're saying on all of Max? Wait, hang on, Luke. Out of all of Star Wars, you think this is the best? You're talking like Rey seeing Luke Skywalker, right? Or no, I'm your father.
You guys brought that one up last time. Luke Skywalker at the end of The Force Awakens is the worst cliffhanger in all of Star Wars because it's a huge cliffhanger, but that doesn't make it good. Everyone was disappointed that that was the first time they saw him. They wanted Luke to be in the entire episode, and then it was like, oh, he just gets a little cameo at the end. Yes, it was a big cliffhanger, but I wouldn't say that was the best one. This was one of the best ones.
Never more than 12
insane.
is up there.
Yeah, it's
From
Max.
Andor?
If you see, if you see,
It's up there.
if you see Luke Skywalker at the end of Force Awakens and you're not tearing up, that for the first time, that is crazy because your childhood and reality and your past, future, and present all collide at once in this one moment where you see this person. You're so excited for the future, and then even though I like Last Jedi, they just kind of just use your nutsack as a punching bag in that first scene, but I think that is the best scene. This isn't even. This is cool. It doesn't affect me at all. Like I feel like Don Draper.
It's
I'm
a
like
good
I don't think.
cliffhanger.
I think it's okay. I think it's cool, but like I like Bo-Katan.
You're going to eat those words if you say that this doesn't affect me at all, because Luke and I are going to be talking about this a lot for the rest of the season, as we should.
I agree. What we're going to be talking about is how it doesn't affect anything besides it.
But this episode, it does. This episode was amazing.
I agree. I like this episode. This is such a confusing episode for Force for Thought because Luke doesn't like it. Max loves it. I like it, but I'm also talking shit about it consistently because Max likes it too much. It's just so confusing.
No,
and
because
I
there's
also
this implicit argument that's being made of like, oh, I don't like this episode because I know the other episodes aren't going to be as good as this one. But that can't be a knock on how good this one is.
that's what
Then
Luke's
when am I
saying.
going to be
like
mad
it.
about it? If not now, then when? I need my
I
chance.
don't know when. Maybe just don't be mad.
Pick one.
Let's just be happy that
Pick
it
a random
exists.
episode 3 through 8, and I'll shit on it for not having the mythosaur.
When we get Lizzo back, we can bring it up then. All right. When we talk about Jack Black being casted in Star Wars, we'll say, and another thing.
Why wasn't he married to a mythosaur instead of Lizzo?
There's things that I'm so excited about for this rest of the season. Like I'm so excited to see Kelleran Beck, but also like I remember the Foundling being an episode I really dislike. So I'm just like so confused about this whole season, and so I am excited to dive into each of these episodes to really see like Guns for Hire. Max, I'm a little nervous that's going to be like our new favorite episode, like the Frog Lady, right? The passenger. Like we're like that episode sucks. Then we love it. What if Guns for Hire
There's
is
a
actually
lot to
amazing?
like in it. There's a lot
Like,
to
I'm-
like in it.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little
Guns
worried.
for Hire.
That's the Lizzo episode.
That's episode 6.
Oh, that's the Lizzo episode. Never
Yeah.
mind. Okay.
Like I'm a
I'm
little
trying to
worried.
think
I'm
what the
gonna
names
love
are.
it.
Matt was just
because
throwing me a bone by not referring to it as the Lizzo episode for once in his life.
I
The
was
Pirate. The Pirate is the episode I thought you were referencing for a second. The one with Gorian Shard and they invade Navarro.
Yes.
Because that is a fire episode.
That is.
but
I think that-
we'll get there.
Yes, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Convert and the Pirate, and the Spy and the Return. I'm just interested in rewatching and revisiting. Guns for Hire and the Foundling are the ones that I'm not.
You can say you're excited. You can be excited about Star Wars. I'm excited for all of it. I have high hopes, especially after this season, this episode.
Here's the thing.
I know.
Sky is the limit.
I'm excited for it. I'm just so nervous about what our conversations are going to be like. Because season 2 was a breeze. We all got along. It was great. So far, 2 episodes in, it hurts my head. I'm so confused. Up is down. I mean, I will revel in any time Luke actually has a critique of Star Wars. I appreciate that aspect. But for some reason, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I don't like it. I want Luke to be like, I just is so. And Max, usually you have such a good critical eye. And this over here, it's just like, It's not. It's like you're a 13-year-old seeing porn for the first time or something. It's just you just can't take your eyes off it. It's concerning to me.
That's your comparison, not mine, but I will use that again. That you've compared the sight of the mythosaur to a 13-year-old seeing porn for the first time. I think that's an apt description.
I agree. And also, at 13 might be a little too late to, maybe a couple of years earlier. You know, you just stumble upon a magazine or something. You see glimpses of it.
Talk about this with your therapist, Matthew, not on a pod. Dear God.
Anyway.
Anybody have any other thoughts on the
one
Minds of
note I
Mandalore?
actually had on my phone from when I watched the episode? I just saw it again. Pelimato has the line, "Sorry, pal, no chance cubes," because there are no dice in Star Wars, just chance cubes. Fire line.
That is really funny.
That's not my force for thought. That's just my last note on this episode.
I also love that she mentions Boba Fett in this as well, just because they're like, well, we have to mention him at some point.
What did she say?
I don't remember, but she mentions Boba Fett in the first scene as well. I can't remember what she says, but she says something about Boba Fett.
She said you're here to. I thought she said you're here to take out Boba Fett.
Something like that, right?
I thought it was like a negative, but I was like, you knew that they were just on a team together, right? I forget what it was, but she did reference it.
Yeah.
Paid lip service to the show.
Exactly. And they are like, well, we have to mention him somehow. And they're like, he's going to come back. And then he doesn't obviously come back because he's living his best life in, some sort of partnership with, oh my God, I can't think of her name. It doesn't matter. Fennec Shand. There we go. Yep, the character that Max and I like and Luke does not. Anyway, does anybody have any force for thought before we move on to next week's episode and I say see ya, Sammy, and then we wait a week?
That is our format. And yes, this week I have a force for thought. So I've been rewatching A New Hope, and I was taken aback by a moment when our merry band of heroes were getting away from the Death Star. They get on the Millennium Falcon, they're fleeing, and they're being chased by a couple of TIE fighters. So naturally, they have to assume these gunner positions in order to thwart off these incoming TIEs. And Han Solo was not wearing gloves prior to that, and then he gets in this gunner seat, and he's wearing gloves. And then when the fight's over, he gets out, he goes back to the cockpit, and you see him taking his gloves off. And it's like, in all of that peril, you had these TIE fighters on your tail, they were chasing you, and you were like, wait, I want to put my gloves on for this, because they're sick driving gloves, and they do look really cool when he wears them. From a character design, it's like 10 out of 10. Yeah, absolutely. But like real world implications, I'm like, you should not be doing that. That is so irresponsible. And then I recalled, thanks to a little film known as Solo, A Star Wars Story, it is canon that using that turret without protective thumb wear can indeed really hurt your thumbs. And that is a backstory that you don't remember being addressed in Solo, A Star Wars Story. But when, what's his name? Beckett says, I really hurt my thumbs, it just goes to show you why Harrison Ford insists on using gloves when he uses that turret.
That's crazy. Yeah. Good job, Max. So
Fantastic.
I've never thought of
Fantastic
that.
force for thought.
Yeah. Wow.
That's just something to chew on. There's not even a discussion necessary.
Nope, there isn't. That's
Good work.
unfortunate.
Good
I really
work,
wanted
my
to talk.
man.
Yeah. I was going to be like, if you're going to go out, you want to go out in style, yada, yada. But no, that's a sound reasoning. And really funny that they went through all of that to be able to, we're talking about Rogue One, this whole plot point. Look at this whole this whole glove thing, and I got a glove gate happening over here. That was good,
That's
Maxwell.
the kind of fine detail that I appreciate. And I always attributed that line because it's like a weird random comedic beat in Solo that's really out of place as being Lord and Miller work. And I just appreciate that even though they didn't get to finish the film, that there was a level of detail that they were just like, you know what always bothered me? Han was wearing gloves for just this one part of the movie. I don't actually know, obviously, but if that was the thinking at least. But that is my headcanon, and I think very reasonable grounds.
That's really
that's
good,
the kind
Maxwell.
of thing that only maybe Ron Howard, but Lord and Miller would know the real answer to. But like yeah, next time I watch Solo, I'm gonna be. Did you know that he says that because Han Solo uses gloves on that turret in in A New Hope?
I love it. That's why I
Wow.
love
There you go.
podcast. That's amazing, Maxwell. My
10
mind
out
is
of
a
10
little
Force
blown.
for
And if
thought.
anyone else,
Thank you.
If anyone else has any other thoughts about it, you can feel free to reach out to us across social media at Force for Thought, or you could email us at forceforthought@gmail.com.
See you, Sammy. Next week, episode 3 of the conference.